Helo, enw i yw Ffion Jones, a dwi'n wreiddiol yn dod o Chynlleth. Mae'r Chynlleth yn tua hanner awr I ffwrdd o fan hyn. A dwi'n merch ffarm o ffarm yn Mynyddol, Gerfa Chynlleth, a nawr dwi'n byw yn Talbont. A dyma fy myd I, dwi'n byw yn Talbont ar ffarm Dyfodol beef, a ni newydd gael delivery bach o 50 o ieir sydd newydd dechrau dodwy, so dwi'n mewn bach o penbreth I wneud beth I wneud gyda'r wyau yma gyd. Ond, so dyna fy myd I. A hefyd dwi'n darlithydd yn y Brifysgol yn yr adran theatr ffilm a thenedig. Ac dwi'n artist, a dwi'n creu darn o waith ar gyfer yr arddangosfa yn Gerfa Ceredigion. Dwi'n mynd I siarad yn Saesneg, so dwi'n mynd I switcho nawr i'r iaith Saesneg, ond mae croeso mawr I chi wedyn os oes cwestiynau neu ydych chi eisiau sgwrs I siarad gyda fi wedyn. Mae hwnna'n fine gyda fi. So, hello, my name is Ffion Jones, as you've all heard. And I think perhaps it's important to offer some personal context to the work that I made for the museum. And in fact, I'd like to go back to an epiphany I had when I was 16 years old. And it's 2001, and I get onto the white school minibus, and I remember this sense of dread in my heart, this fear. I wasn't sure what was going to await me back home. I wasn't sure if they were going to be men in white overalls with the blood of our sheep spattered all over them, or whether my father would have taken a gun to his own head. And I remember those being very real feelings and worries that I had at that point in my life. And of course, foot and mouth, that was the time, the period at 16 when foot and mouth was spreading across the UK. And 5 miles on, the bus stops, and across the straw disinfection barrier, I remember it vividly now, walk the last half a mile home. Rural Wales stopped, and the countryside became a no-go zone, which in turn highlighted the interconnectedness between rural economies and agriculture in Wales. But for me and my family, I think it also highlighted the importance of this reciprocal relationship between us and our flock of Welsh mountain sheep. And I began to think about the interconnectedness and the connections that we have with our livestock animals. Later on, I developed these ideas as I wrote my PhD, Wooling the Boundaries, Perceptions and Artistic Interventions into Upland Sheep Farming in Wales, through fieldwork and artistic practices, and I began to explore how our lives, how the complexity of our working lives is entwined with the bodies of others, with the bodies of our sheep. And as a farmer, I know the world through my sheep, and we've already had a very passionate speaker talking about how he's mad about sheep. I'm mad about sheep too, and I know a lot of people who are mad about sheep. So I share that kind of love of sheep in a way. And I know the world through the jobs that I need to do with the sheep, from lambing and weaning and dagging and foot trimming, protecting against blowfly strike, shearing, making hay, preparing for tupping, feeding winter forage. All of those things become part of how I experience the world and the way that I navigate my world through landscape and community and history in a way. And in a sense, I've come to think that in a way, in a kind of strange metaphorical way, and I know that nostalgia and romance perhaps is not what I'm trying to get at, but maybe it comes across as that, but I am the flock and the flock are me. They are part of my history. And we rely on one another for our own existence in reciprocal, and to use Donna Haraway's terminology, world-making ways. So now a bit about my artistic practice. I'm as an artist, I think I always begin with what I know and what I feel that I want to lay bare to the world. And quite often my work has a deeply personal resonance. Some of the pieces that I have made over the years have been deeply personal, and I think what they all try to do is to communicate the experience of living and working on a farm in some form or another. And in some of the works I made, I blend autobiography with the voices of others from interviews and archival material, attempting to construct a filmic or performance world that voices the multiple experiences of farm life. And at the root of my work, I think, is the hope to weave or yn y Gymraeg I blethu the complexities of this way of life, and to offer an honest insight into the world of farming. So I've made a piece of work that some of you might have seen, some of you haven't. It's on the loom on the top floor of the museum, and it's kind of it's been a different process for me in some respects, because I don't normally create installation work. There's always a live element to the work that I make. So this was kind of trying to find a way of creating something that was installation-based was a little bit of a challenge in some respects. But I was really pleased to find the loom, because I love the smell of wool and the feel of wool. It's that kind of materiality has always been a really important thing for me. The other thing that I was really taken by in the museum was the implements, the farm implements that they have in their collection, and the pitch markers. And I think there were branding irons as well, possibly for branding onto horns, maybe. In their archives, I think they were really fascinating too. And I think I tried to set myself this challenge, and I was thinking about the title of the exhibition, Sheep, and I decided that I wouldn't have sheep in any of the images that I was going to film or work with for the project that I've made for the museum. In some of these images of my previous work, I made a conscious decision for some of the film work, for Dear Mick Jagger anyway, to never show an empty landscape, because that is not how I see the world, that's not how I see the landscape. I'm always looking for the details for a different scale, from the close-up to the far away. What's that sheep doing over there? Is she lambing or is she dead? Or all of those things begin to kind of become a different way of looking at the landscape. So that was something that I did for Dear Mick Jagger. But for this, not having sheep was a purposeful idea to reconnect, to reconnect to the idea that sheep are intrinsically tied to human worlds and practices. The genetic fine-tuning has made them a product of human society and culture, often over many generations of the same farming family, as is with my family. The farmers invest emotionally, as well as temporally, that is over time, in the building of the flock and the improvement of the genetics. They, in a way, the flock become a vessel to contain our family history in many ways. I think for the work that I've made for the museum, I also wanted to, and this is a still of where it's situated in the museum, it's installed and projected through the loom. I also wanted to create the sense of vulnerability and honesty, to give the viewers the time to connect to the people who farm these livestock animals, to look into their eyes and to see them as people just like the rest of us, trying to get on with their lives and to do their work in what I feel is becoming an increasingly pressurised industry. And I felt that over the past 10 years, farmers, especially upland farmers for some reason, appeared to be bearing the brunt of perhaps comments about ecological disaster and I feel that sometimes we're blamed when we're trying really hard to do our best. Of course, there are people that don't follow sustainable or careful practices, but on the whole, I think we're all trying really, really hard. So this kind of, I feel that perhaps there is a lack of ability to see the complexity of this world, and to accept that farm life is a weaving of land and animal and nature and landscape and natural phenomena, care, community, governance, subsidy, all of those things, they play an important role. And sometimes the reduction of these to black and white terminology and binaries is undermining and erodes that way of life and the truth of those worlds. So this work then attempts to give space to farmers to reflect on the nature of their own relationships with their sheep. One of the main questions that I asked each of the 10 participants was, what do sheep mean to you? And the range of the results of that question is really interesting. There's a range of responses from a sense of deep love and attachment to ones where they feel, well, if we didn't have beef on the farm, then I might not continue with the sheep. I like how they're a balance. Sheep and beef is a nice balance for us here. And those things are place-specific. They're specific to the farm. And I think that's important to bear in mind, isn't it? That a farm is a specific place in a specific location with a specific group of people. And blanket-like policy doesn't always help us to achieve what's best for our land. So I was very lucky to find a wide range of farmers. It took a little bit of tracking down some people that were willing to speak to me, some of whom I knew very well, others that I'd never met before, and their kind of openness and warmness and honesty was really lovely, and I really enjoyed having an opportunity to talk to them all. So I also tried to include female farmers, because I sometimes feel like maybe female farmers are overlooked within the overall picture within agriculture, although it's improving as years go on. But so that was important, and the responses from young people as well. So I have a 13-year-old boy and a 26-year-old young man as well, who are still working with their fathers and grandfathers. So having their input into the discussion was important. And the concept itself, if I can go, I don't know if I have to go back on both slides. Sorry, I think that's my slides. I asked each participant to just stare into the camera for 2 whole minutes. That's all I asked them to do. That's all they're doing. And I wanted to capture this moment as though it was the moment that the camera had accidentally kept rolling as I was discussing with them. So you hear on the soundtrack, you hear them talking to me, but on the image it is just their faces looking to me. And I guess I was trying to create a space, a reflective space, where we have to engage with them on their terms, looking into their eyes directly, really seeing them. I think that was an important thing. And I hope that the work communicates a raw and honest and vulnerable sense of identity, and that the passion and the expertise and knowledge of my participants is appreciated and understood. And farming, of course, as many participants tell me, and I feel myself, and I'm sure a lot of people in the room also feel, is kind of one of these things. It's in the blood, it's a way of life, it's complex and it's intertwined with the animals that we care for, with natural phenomena and seasons and wind and rain and muck and life and death and economies and governance, ecologies and habitats and wildlife and pests and trees and plants and water sources, with loneliness and the solace that we find in our connection with our flock.